Mr. Kiley, for what purpose do you seek recognition? The clerk will report the amendment.
Amendment to the amendment in the nature of a substitute to H.R. 5 offered by Mr. Kiley of California, identifier Kiley_001.
Mr. Kiley, you're recognized for 5 minutes to explain your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Across this country, and perhaps nowhere more so than in my state of California, there is an extraordinary movement of parents who are asserting their right to control the education of their children, who are reforming corrupt and failing school systems, and who are putting student learning back at the center of American education. This bill is about putting power back in the hands of parents. And there is no more powerful instrument for parents to have a say in their child's education than determining where it is that they go to school. School choice. It's proven to be the single most powerful instrument for advancing educational excellence. When you look at the results in states that embrace school choice, such as Florida, which ranks at the top when it comes to student achievement, versus schools that do whatever they can to constrain school choice, like my own state of California, which even prior to COVID-19 was second to last in the country when it came to education outcomes for children in low-income communities. And then, of course, in one of the most harmful policy decisions in our country's history, California had the single longest school shutdown of any state in the country, which has exacerbated these achievement gaps in ways that we are only now really beginning to understand. And so what I am proposing today is a modest amendment that could prove to be very powerful in advancing the options that parents have for where they send their kids to school. Because different districts and different states across the country allow a higher degree of choice, but if parents are not aware of what choices they have, then they're not able to exercise that choice. And so what I'm proposing is that parents have a right, wherever it is that they live, to see exactly what public school options are available to them. And so that would mean, number one, what schools can they send their child to within the district whose boundaries they live within. Different districts, again, have different policies, but generally you'll be assigned a neighborhood school, but then there's an option to choose a different school. Some school districts have open enrollment. Others will give you an ability to do an intra-district transfer if you follow a given process. So we want to make that transparent to every parent. And then you also have the option in some states and some districts of doing inter-district transfers. So if there's a neighboring school district, for example, that accepts transfer students, if there's a process you have to follow, parents should have the right to know of that option as well. And then thirdly is charter schools, which are tuition-free. They're public schools, but the parents generally have to opt in, but they aren't able to do so if they aren't aware of the option. And indeed, you do have certain districts where there's sort of an effort to intentionally discourage public awareness of what those options are. It's important to note that this is of most help to low-income families, parents who are working multiple jobs who might not have the same ability to learn how to navigate the system that other families do. But if they have a clear presentation of here are the schools within your district where your child can enroll, here are the schools in neighboring districts where your child can enroll, here are the charter schools where your child can enroll, then they will have a much more meaningful measure of school choice. And the effects of this are positive in several ways. First of all, it gives the parent that ability to choose the option that is right for their child. It might be that there are different options of schools, and one might not necessarily be better than another, but one is just a better fit for their child because of different classes that are offered, because of a different focus of the school, because of different extracurricular activities, and so forth. But perhaps the biggest benefit is this will promote a sense of competition, both within districts and between school districts. Even in my state of California, there is a limited school choice option called the Districts of Choice program, which for some districts allows students to transfer from a neighboring district. And there was a study done by the nonpartisan legislative analysts that showed that, number one, there were better educational outcomes for students who transferred under that program, but number two, that the districts they were transferring away from actually responded by improving the type of education that they offered, by having new course offerings and by having more professional development and improving their educational product across the board. So, Madam Chair, I would simply ask that this amendment be adopted. I think that it will go a long way towards supporting the broader purpose of this legislation. Thank you, and I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. Is there further debate on the amendment? Mr. Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think some of the, move to strike the last word.
The gentleman's recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I think some of the comments made by the gentleman are not reflected in the actual language of the bill. He says that you get all this information and everybody can make an informed choice. Well, if the information shows that there's one good school in the district, everybody's going to choose that school. There's not enough room in the school, and so you don't get your choice. And then what happens to those that are stuck at the bad school? In fact, probably in most cases like this, 90% of those are going to be stuck at the bad school. And the language here is you've got to have information of all the schools served by the local education, charter schools, apparently all over the world, and schools served by different local educational agency in the state. Number two is not limited by any jurisdiction, so you got to, any charter school they could possibly enroll in, you got to give them information. This does not improve, this amendment does not improve anything except for the privileged few that get the first choice, and everybody else, when the school fills up, and it's probably full to begin with, get nothing. And a worse school because all of the political pressure to actually improve the school took care of themselves and got away. I think this amendment promises a lot that is not based in reality. And I'll yield to the gentleman.
Thank you. I think it's important to understand what the ranking member has just said. He says, well, what if there's only one good school in the district, then everyone's going to want to go there. So his solution is that we should keep everyone else trapped in their failing schools. And that, unfortunately, is the mentality that prevails in far too much of public education in this country, is you get one choice for where to go to school, and if that school isn't teaching your child to read, isn't teaching them to add and subtract, tough luck. You shouldn't have any other option. What we're trying to say is that you give students the ability to transfer to different schools, whether it's within the district, whether it's outside the district, whether it's a charter school, that if schools face the risk of losing students and the funding that comes with them, then that has a powerful effect of inducing reform and improving their educational offerings. And as far as you're concerned about, well, there are going to be too many students, there are procedures that charter schools already have. If they're oversubscribed, they have waiting lists. They have to have then lotteries in order to let students off of those waiting lists. I don't really see what the objection could be to giving parents more information about the options that are available to them.
Reclaiming my time,
Thank you. I yield back.
I think the suggestion that those stuck in the bad schools are just stuck in the bad schools is not the point. Point is that the solution to that ought to be not let a privileged few escape, but to improve all of the schools in the area so people are not stuck in bad schools. The solution could be let the privileged few who are making the most noise get away. Everybody else, probably upwards of 90%, are going to be stuck behind, and no emphasis, no pressure to improve the school where they're left behind. I just can't imagine if you've got schools and disparities, the solution isn't let everybody try to sneak into the good schools. The solution ought to be to improve the good school, to improve all of the schools so no one is stuck behind.
Does the gentleman yield?
Oh, yeah.
This idea of a privileged few being able to leave, that's what happens right now. You look at people like the president, the vice president, the governor of my state, California, generally opposed to school choice, opposed to charter schools. They send their own kids to private schools. So they embrace school choice for their own families. Wherever you live in this country, if you have means, then you do have school choice available to you. You can go to a private school, you can move to a district that has high-quality public schools. What we're trying to do is expand that choice that everyone seems to embrace for themselves to the entire population, so it's not just a privileged few like the president, the vice president, the governor of California, who have that ability to exercise school choice.
Reclaiming my